Big dogs, what are the most powerful Yu-Gi-Oh decks that could beat the meta? I know you see the headband. I know you checking the fit. I do that to you, boy. In this tier list, we're going to be talking about Yu-Gi-Oh decks that are not meta and ranking them on how powerful they are, if they can beat the meta, or if they cheeks to the meta. Cheeks to the meta sound kind of sus, but we're rolling with it. Let's go ahead and jump on in. What's going on with y'all, big dogs? And it is an amazing day for Yu-Gi-Oh! I hope that your day phenomenal. But if it isn't, don't let what happened at the beginning of your day ruin the rest of your day. The meta beating tier list. Big dogs, I composed a tier list of just about every single Yu-Gi-Oh strategy that has done well over the last couple of weeks, and I'm going to be ranking them on how powerful they are, if they can consistently be able to compete with some of the top decks, or if they're cheeks to the meta. And of course, big dogs, as per normal, I always try to get your favorite Yu-Gi-Oh strategies in. So if you think that there is a Yu-Gi-Oh strategy that I missed, or you just want to hear me talk about it, go ahead and post down below in the comment section. I think the next tier list we'll be talking about the meta tier list after the YCS, but the one after that is going to be focused on the new Battles of Legends Monster Mayhem. So please let me know right now, post in that comment section, like this video and share with a friend. Make sure I do not forget some strategies that should be talked about with the next two. But the criteria for these Yu-Gi-Oh strategies is really simple. Not only will we be taking statistical data into effect, how often Yu-Gi-Oh strategies top and how well they are, we'll also be talking about some features that these strategies may have against some of the best decks in the game. I will include some of the complexities and mention how easy or hard it is to be successful with these strategies overall. Let's go ahead and start off with Centurion. Centurion has had a really interesting trajectory. It was once thought of to be the best deck in the room, only to kind of fall flat to that. The biggest strength about Centurion is that this deck does not need to search a lot, and it also doesn't need to special summon from the main deck. So Droll and Lockbird doesn't really hurt this deck, neither does the Charmies, but also more importantly, this is a deck that can play Deck Devastation Virus. Overall, Centurion is a very solid Yu-Gi-Oh option. The Bystial monsters are now strong again, whether you're hitting the Mitsurugi cards in graveyard or if you're going against Fiendsmith. Blue Eyes is still a prevalent strategy, so the Bystial monsters can put in work. What Centurion does is that it takes those Bystial monsters and maximizes them by allowing you to synchro summon with them, as well as providing other avenues and extension for the deck. Next will be Chimera, another one of those Yu-Gi-Oh strategies that, Chimera's biggest problem is that in Yu-Gi-Oh, there are just better Fiendsmith Yu-Gi-Oh strategies. There are also way better Azamina strategies too. Normally, if you're going to be playing Chimera and incorporating both, you'd probably be better off playing just a better deck. But let's say for some reason you are hell-bent on playing Chimera. I love Chimera myself. I think it's a really cool strategy. I think this Yu-Gi-Oh strategy takes a dog to be able to play. And the main reason is because the big problem with Chimera is that it requires more resources to be able to play this Yu-Gi-Oh deck than some of the other strategies that incorporate those concepts. If I were to make a life analogy for Chimera, it's literally like playing the old school Pokemon games and choosing Charmander. You like Charmander, he looks cool, he is not the best starter. Cyber Dragon, big dogs. But unlike Chimera, Cyber Dragon doesn't really have an equal, unless we're talking about strategies like Sky Striker or Tenpai Dragon, because oftentimes Cyber Dragon is thought of as a going second deck. Now I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys that Cyber Dragon has anything over Tenpai Dragon or Sky Striker, because simply it doesn't. Wait, hold on. That's something over Sky Strikers. If you don't want the FBI after you, my man Tamir just topped using Cyber Dragon, but to be honest with you, I know this dude personally. He's a dog. I think it's going to take nothing less of a dog to be successful with this deck. The really good thing about Cyber Dragon is that your Cyber Dragon monsters can convert any machine or extra deck monster into one of your monsters. Cyber Dragon is one of those old but gold Yu-Gi-Oh GX strategies, but Dark World isn't. I think Dark World is a very good strategy when it comes to board breaking. But as far as being able to compete in this Yu-Gi-Oh meta, I would personally say not right now. Dark World isn't terrible by any means. It actually has a couple of ways to be able to win. Going second and breaking the opponent's board, which could be considered a worse Tenpai Dragon deck, and Sky Striker is getting more support, or being a hand loop deck, which loses to every single Macharmy, every Bystial card, Ghost Bell at the right time, and DD Crow. That's just not the way. Playing Dark World at this point in time is like playing Pokemon Gold or Silver and picking Chikorita. Ain't no way you picked that Pokemon. I picked it. I thought it was going to be good. Now, this isn't a budget tier list, but Dinomorphia kind of crazy. Now, this isn't the budget tier list, but this is about $80 for a competitive Yu-Gi-Oh deck, and overall is a solid option to be able to beat some of the best of the best. If you go first with this Yu-Gi-Oh deck, you're almost guaranteed to win. Also, people underestimate the strength of Ferret Flames. That card's actually a really good trap card. Drytron, big dogs. Holy. When Drytron got its support a few sets ago, some players thought that this deck was going to take over. I think some of Drytron's biggest problems is that it isn't a great going second deck. Against an already established board, it can already struggle, something that Dark World doesn't do. And going first, it's not that hard to disrupt. The hand traps that I talked about that are good against Dark World are also good against Drytron, combined with its inability to be able to go first and being a one-trick pony type deck, not that great. Eldlich! The Mad Golden Lord's going crazy. Eldlich actually did top an event, which is cynical. I've seen people have quite a bit of local success with Eldlich, but I think at a big regionals and higher level event, the deck will struggle. I'm gonna put it in takes a dog. Eldlich is not a bad Yu-Gi-Oh strategy. In fact, in a format where games can be decided on floodgates, this deck is the best at it. Now, this amalgamation of cards that you see at the bottom is Fiendsmith, Bystial, Primite. This Yu-Gi-Oh strategy is starting to be played in Master Duel right now and is fairly strong in today's Yu-Gi-Oh. It's seen a decrease in play, but if we're being real, it didn't have a lot of players that were really interested in the deck to begin with. I think a lot of that has to do with price, with Primite Lordly Load being a very expensive Yu-Gi-Oh card, but with its confirmed reprint in Battles of Legends, Monster Mayhem, I think this is a solid option Yu-Gi-Oh deck. The Fiendsmith engine for this Yu-Gi-Oh deck isn't that important. What really helps this deck is that the Primite and the Bystial strategies can not only stop your opponent's important cards, it also allows you to be able to play Yu-Gi-Oh! This deck is really good against Mitsurugi and Fiendsmith because of the Bystials, but also since it plays a full package, Branded Regained is crazy against Malice as well. It's a fairly solid option. Now, Fire King. Fire King has consistently been topping nationals and regional events. In fact, this deck is ridiculously strong. If we're gonna go back to the analogy of Pokemon in the first generation, picking Fire King is almost like picking Bulbasaur, ironically, for the first generation. You guys gotta hear me out. Bulbasaur is ridiculously underrated. You beat Brock, you beat Misty. The only problems you really have are Blaine. You learn Sleep Powder? Come on, dog. Stop sleeping on my boy Bulba. Easily one of the strategies that can beat the meta. One of the best things about Fire King is that it's incredibly low to the ground. It plays around those Mocharmy cards with ease, but more importantly, Hyang, the Sacred High Fire King Runix, is a board wipe on your opponent's turn. Something that I think Yu-Gi-Oh strategies are going to need to be successful. Now, Goblin Bikers were a pretty good Yu-Gi-Oh deck as an engine. And the main reason is because Goblin Bikers are really good in an Xseed Yu-Gi-Oh format, but right now we're not in an Xseed Yu-Gi-Oh format despite Ryzeal being good. Unfortunately, I'm gonna say cheeks to the meta. Goblin Bikers has some really cool things going for it. The only fortunate thing about Goblin Bikers is that I think it peaked at the wrong times. I think personally that Goblin Biker would have been a really, really good Yu-Gi-Oh strategy in 2021. Back when decks like Virtual World and Phantom Knights were crazy because it has that same feel. It's a 1 to 2 card combo deck that has a theme going for it, fairly strong, but unfortunately got power crept the moment that it came out in Snake Eyes format. Heroes have multiple problems in this Yu-Gi-Oh format. The Rock, Droll, Charmies, existing. I'm just gonna go ahead and put it in not right now. I know that hero players got Vicious Claw and they're going crazy on that card, like doing tricks on it. But let's keep it a bean. Vicious Claw is just another brick. And to be honest with you, if they want to fix heroes, they're gonna really start having to break this Yu-Gi-Oh strategy up. Like making evil heroes their own thing, Destiny heroes their own thing, elemental heroes their own thing, and so on and so forth. Because the more cards that get introduced in this deck, they all just seem to be brick Yu-Gi-Oh cards that only help in certain situations. Kind of like how it would be incredibly hard for Batman to help you in space when you have Superman available. You know, the alien. Kashtira has actually been going on a tear. What I love about Kashtira is that players do not respect Kashtira Unicorn. So anytime that it gets summoned to the side of the field, it demands the attention of a Yu-Gi-Oh player. Oftentimes, the card by itself can be a walking W. I genuinely think that Kashtira is one of those Yu-Gi-Oh strategies that beats the meta. Being able to banish White Binder and Detonator, as well as being able to grind out forever. No diddy. And Kashtira Birth being one of the most busted Yu-Gi-Oh cards in the game. Kashtira has a lot of things going for it, it just doesn't have the representation. It can also be played as an engine or as a main Yu-Gi-Oh deck in decks like Drytron or Regenesis. Live Twin also has a lot going on for it. It keeps up with modern Yu-Gi-Oh with its one-card combos, can incorporate the Bystial monsters to stop some of the best decks in the game, but more importantly, it has access to cards like Chaos Angel. To be honest with you guys, I actually think that this is one of those Yu-Gi-Oh strategies that beat the meta. And I even made a deck profile on Live Twin showing you how powerful the deck can be. It can play enough board breakers or hand traps to be able to slow down the opponent, and since the engine is one-card combos with extra extenders, it's well adapted into this format. Magical Musketeers. You see, Magical Musketeers actually isn't bad. Think about it. A Magical Musketeer Bystial deck gives you a lot of coverage. The ability to be able to disrupt your opponent with the Bystials, being able to make Chaos Angel because a Magical Musketeer like Starfire plus a Bystial makes it easily, while also giving you full access to your Fiendsmith engine. Oh my god, yeah, not right now. I think the only problem with Magical Musketeer right now is that the ceiling of this deck may be a little too low. The max output that can be done with this Yu-Gi-Oh strategy is a lot lower than some of the other strategies we're going to talk about. But I'm still riding with Magical Musketeers, big dog. You gonna see me with them forever. Now, Memento is probably like Squirtle out of all Pokemon starters. Squirtle eventually grows to be a tanky Pokemon, able to withstand anything, kind of like how Memento is. A tanky Yu-Gi-Oh strategy capable to be able to flow with everything and ride the next waves. Pun intended. Don't shoot me! Water gun the messenger. Wait, I'm the messenger. No, don't do that. I think Memento is still a meta-beating Yu-Gi-Oh deck. The best thing about Memento is that it doesn't really play much into anything that's going on right now. Board whites aren't really that strong when the deck is played right, and it has an incredibly good matchup against Ryzeo and Ryzeo Mitsurugi. From there, it makes hand traps look silly, and the Bystial monsters or Fiendsmith are no problem. It's easily one of, if not the best strategy on this tier list if you want to beat the meta. Now, Mermails are kind of the opposite. Mermails have an instant win button where if they go first, they can hand loop you. But if they go second, they actually have enough board break to be able to win the game. The problem with Mermail though, is that Mermail requires a lot of skill to be able to pilot. It's also a fairly intricate deck that needs you to know about PCST and chain ordering, which let's be real, Yu-Gi-Oh players don't read. Chain ordering? I'm gonna put Mermail into really solid option. While I do think that it is a strategy that could be in meta beating, because it's so complicated, whether it's building the actual deck or playing with the actual deck, I think solid option is probably your best bet for anybody getting into the game. Ninjas, cause I got the Naruto headband and the Naruto shirt, and I'm a
It's been a long day without you, my friend.
Ninjas, unfortunately, are not competing. Fortunately enough, Odion is a Yu-Gi-Oh strategy that has busted some chomps, and it is easily a solid option Yu-Gi-Oh strategy, hands down. What Odion does well is that not only can it search those floodgate Yu-Gi-Oh cards, it's also a Yu-Gi-Oh strategy that's unaffected by a lot of the cards that players are using. This Yu-Gi-Oh strategy can mix the Kashtira cards to be able to punish the opponent, or use Fiendsmith cards to be able to establish a bigger board. It actually has solid matchups all across the board, especially when you're using Apophis of the Swamp Deity to be able to neutralize your opponent's threats. Now, of course, we're going to talk about Orcust in Battles of Legends Monsters Mayhem, but Orcust right now, brother, I don't think that Orcust is a competitor in Yu-Gi-Oh right now. I gotta give respect to the people that were playing Fiendsmith or Horus Orcust, but let's just keep it a bean, guys. That was you guys' coping. When the new Orcust support comes around, we'll revisit this, and I think it'll be a lot higher than Cheeks to the meta. Now, Regenesis. I'm making y'all stand on it. Regenesis is a Yu-Gi-Oh strategy that can beat the meta. It's actually one of the most powerful and improved strategies from the new set Alliance Inside. People didn't know how well Regenesis would do considering that it didn't do so great in the OCG. But in the TCG, having full access to the cash cards and the Bystials gave it a variety of options. Mixing it with either of those strategies has proven to be really successful. Now for my boy Salamangreat, they're not good, they're great. I think Salamangreat has gotten real good. Look, let's face it, guys. Salamangreat has access to one of the strongest trap cards in the game, Salamangreat Roar. and it can reset itself. Also, with a skilled Yu-Gi-Oh player, you can dog out the meta. I'm gonna put it in takes a dog. Now, is this my copium taking over? Maybe. But I'm also gonna say, you ain't beating me with Salamangreat. TJ can't beat me with Salamangreat. I'll turn this low tier deck into a top tier deck and wipe anybody. Now, let me know if you guys want to see me make Salamangreat into a top tier Yu-Gi-Oh deck and duel with it. Swordsoul, yeah, no. One of the biggest problems with Swordsoul is that it is a 2-card combo deck. I know that Moye just needs a worm and Taie just needs a card in the graveyard, but getting those cards is not as easy as it is to play some of these other Yu-Gi-Oh strategies. Once we get more worm support, this deck becomes a lot stronger. I would say Tenpai Dragon takes a good pilot, but that feels disrespectful to actually good pilots. I'm just messing because Tenpai Dragon is not the same as his Master Duel counterpart. This is a deck that can win when going second and you play the right cards. I just don't expect it to win consistently enough because of the hits that happened on the ban list. What do Traptrix players in the FBI have in common? They like jail! What do Traptrix players and Drake have in common? They like bad music. I wasn't gonna go there, but they like bad music. I think the best version of Traptrix would probably be Traptrix Ryziel with less Traptrix, and that pretty much makes it a Ryziel deck, so we're gonna say cheeks to the meta for now. Traptrix needs a stronger going second method, or just more powerful cards to make their Exceed monsters powerful, which leads me back to Ryziel, which goes back to the exact same thing we were talking about. Now, I would personally put Voiceless Voice in the not right now category. Pure Voiceless Voice is probably an abomination to Yu-Gi-Oh with all of the graveyard manipulation. Ryziel Voiceless Voice is probably in the same spot as Traptrix. To be honest, if we're talking about like Ryziel Voiceless Voice and Ryziel Traptrix, these decks could respectively be right here. But I know there are going to be people that are going to be purist at heart that are going to trash the TheCaliEffect for saying that they don't need those filthy cards, so let's give them their real rating. You're gonna need those filthy cards. I would put Vanquish Soul at takes a dog right now. There's been a Vanquish Soul Regenesis deck that topped. I don't think that that's going to be the wave for Vanquish Soul. I think we're gonna have to wait for K9. But overall, Vanquish Soul is a very fair Yu-Gi-Oh deck that can play board breakers, can play hand traps, and benefits from different attributes. It's not a bad Yu-Gi-Oh deck, it just requires a really big brain to be able to pilot. White Forest is another Yu-Gi-Oh strategy that is crazy strong right now. It's one of the very few strategies that can put up Omni Negations. In a format where Omni Negations is sparse, it's easily one of the best. To be honest with you guys, I think decks like White Forest and Memento, they kind of border the line between an actual meta Yu-Gi-Oh deck and a beating the meta Yu-Gi-Oh deck. So do with that information as you will. And lastly for us is Yubel. I don't think Yubel is incredibly bad. It is a deck that takes a dog though. Yubel's biggest problem is beating those graveyard allegations and the Charmy cards. But outside of that, it is an incredibly strong Yu-Gi-Oh deck. And if Phantom of Yubel comes off the list, you better be watching. And that, big dog, is all I have for the beating the meta tier list. I want to know, what do you guys think? Of course, if you think that there's some Yu-Gi-Oh strategies that I missed, the next week should be a meta tier list post the YCS, and the week after should be talking about Battles of Legends Monsters Mayhem. Go ahead and let me know about those strategies that should be in those tier lists, and also be sure to check out these videos so I can catch you on the next one.